Alright, hopefully the sound works. Like mixer's up. I'll wait until there's feedback. I think I have silenced myself. Anybody hear me? Got a weird face thing. Stream with camera. Oh, you're. Oh, cool. Okay, sweet. I can get on that at some point. Can anybody hear me? I have camera, but do I have sound? Botchin can hear me. Lucas can hear me. All right, sick. And I can stop talking to myself. Where would people like me to go first? Where should I talk about first? I could talk about the quiz and test while I'm waiting for those sorts of things. So, see if this works as well as I hope it does. As far as the test went, people who got an 8 out of 8, I gave 100 to. People who got a 7 out of 8, I gave 96 and 2/3 percent wise. This was a 30 out of 30. This is a 29 out of 30. And then a 6 out of 8, I went to a 27, and then I just hopped down by 3s from there. 5 out of 8 was a 24. 4 out of 8 was a 21. 3 out of 8, then 18. 2 out of 8 was a 15, and so on and so forth down to the bottom. So that's how that grading went. The cone questions on the quiz went pretty well overall. Basically, unless you use the height over radius ratio, which was different in all the different classes, you really couldn't get anywhere close. I did give people partial credit if when they took the derivative of v equals 1/3 pi r squared h, they did the product rule. There were like 2 people who did the product rule accurately, but then did nothing right from there because unfortunately you don't know dHdt or drdt in either of the questions, so you're left with 2 unknowns. There is a way to get to the answer from this step where you have this, because you can take the derivative of this h over r over h equation, and you can get drdt in terms of dHdt, but it was pain. So using this ratio and replacing that r was definitely the way to get to where you wanted to be. Hopefully that's helpful insight into how the quiz went. I graded them yesterday, but I put them in today. And overall, I was pretty happy with how they did. It seems like most people mostly understand related rates, with the angles still being a little bit of a sore spot for some people. And then those of you who had the area question on the free response, you have 1/2, oh goodness, handwriting. 1/2 a times b, and not doing the product rule here posed a lot of people. You can't just say 1/2 dAdt times d. That does not work. So that's all that stuff. I erase all this stuff now. Still learning. That's not very effective. Oh, it only works with my mouse too. Huh. Fascinating. Any questions? I see 0 questions in the chat. That's unfortunate. Who was on your bad list this year, Mr. Kennedy? I'm gonna go with see. I mean, who do I yell at the most? Mikey, probably. Feels bad. Jeff. Jeff, definitely Jeff. Decent amount of June. Be a good choice. Megan Lee, definitely. Man, not June. Unfortunately. Do number 6. I tried teaching, but it's too hard. Number 6 on the review. 11. Okay, 6 is a good place to start. So this question right here. Oh yeah, I went over this in one of the classes because it came up, but not all of them. So, okay, where is it? Here. In this question, you have a horizontal asymptote at y equals 10, which means basically that a is 10. Then the ratio of the leading terms, the two x terms, is 10 over 1, which gives you 10. Horizontal asymptote being a limit at infinity, as much as that makes some people angry. There's somebody in my 6th period who was pretty unhappy with that explanation. But limits at infinity are horizontal asymptotes. And if we make this 10, it is that. Holes are when you have exactly the same term on top and bottom. So we really wanted to have an x minus 1 over x minus 1 ratio like this. And because there's this 10 in front of the x, the 10 needs to be a. I got to put a 10 here. And this is what my equation has to be. So the 10 here forces it to be a horizontal asymptote. The two x minus 1s force a hole at x equals 1. If you distribute that top, you get 10x minus 10 over x minus 1. And that makes a 10, b negative 10, and c negative 1. So 10 minus 10 minus 1, the answer, which is negative 1. So this is a way of asking for, I mean, essentially like a continuity type question mixed with a limited infinity question. That's how horizontal asymptotes work. And so it's a good old 2-for-1. Lots of love for 6th period. Yeah, I do end up yelling at 6th period more than my other 2 periods. Melting my internet. Oh, bad. Well, I guess I'm going to 11 next, because that's the only other question I see. All right, find the values of a and c that make the following function differentiable. So if you remember back in differentiable, what we need is the original function to be continuous. And we also need it to be differentiable, which means that the derivative needs to be continuous. So derivative also continuous. And it's usually easier to start with the derivative because usually you get rid of a variable, and we absolutely get rid of c in this equation. So we get 2 equals, if I take the derivative of the bottom equation, I just get 2. And the derivative of this top equation is kind of a pain in the butt. 2ax plus cosine of x. Doesn't look like it's going to be super nice to plug stuff into, but I'm plugging pi in. That's where these things should meet. And both of these functions are continuous everywhere but pi. So if I plug in pi to a pi plus cosine of pi, cosine of pi is negative 1. That's this point on the unit circle over here, where we have an x value of negative 1. So we end up getting 2 equals 2a pi minus 1. You add 1 to both sides, you get 3. You divide by the 2a, 3 over 2a, or 3 over 2 pi. Whoops. I'm going to change that to a pi and call it a day. Equals a. I'm trying to solve for this guy right here, so I divide by the 2 and pi. Okay, now we know a is 3 over 2 pi, so I can get rid of everything that isn't 3 over 2 pi and narrow it down to b, c, or d. Now what you need to do is you need to set the top, the original functions equal to each other. So ax squared plus sine of x equals 2x minus c. And we plug in pi for x, and we plug in 3 over 2 pi for a. So I'm going to write out all that stuff. 3 over 2 pi a times pi squared plus sine of pi. Oh, did I run out of space? Yeah. Oh, no, it lets me right over here now. Sick. No, bad. All right, equals 2 pi plus c. So yeah, all I got to do is simplify this. My only unknown left is c. So if I figure out all this stuff, pi cancels here and here. So we get 3 pi over 2. Sine of pi is 0, so that term just goes away. So 3 pi over 2 equals 2 pi plus c. That's an easy equation to solve. Subtract 2 pi and you get negative pi over 2, making this one right here the answer. 3 pi over 2 minus 2 pi is negative pi over 2. All right. Hopefully that answers that question. I'm moving on to, I guess, 4. Hopefully there isn't more than one of all these numbers. Oh, there definitely are. Assuming Nicole's asking about the first 4. Okay. This one's just a trig circle of life question, if this is the question that you were asking about. And since the trig circle of life repeats every 4, that means y to the 7th, the 7th derivative of y, I should say, is the same as the 3rd derivative of y. Cool. That's all that's required to do that question. All right, for 5, since that question came up and I have it on the screen already, by far the best way to do 5 is not by doing the product rule, but it's to rewrite this thing as this junk to the 1.5, because these are exactly the same thing. It's a bit of a trick question. You just get 1.5 junk to the 0.5, and then you just plug in 0, so it's 1.5 times the square root of 3, and cool. Did I forget to do chain rule? Yes, I did. Like, that's not the right answer. Yeah, so you also got to do chain rule for the derivative of the inside, which is a 4t plus 3, and so we have to multiply that by 3 and get this answer. Ooh, almost fell for the no chain rule bait answer. That was bad. Okay. It looks like I'm going to 7 or 8, and then... Oh, good. Where am I? 7 or 8. Yeah, let's do those. All right. 7 and 8, maybe? Okay, so 7 is basically just asking for 2 derivatives because we're given position and we're asked for acceleration. So that's just take 2 derivatives. So we get 14 cosine 7t minus 10. You're going to chain out a 2. But since we multiply by, when we take the derivative of cosine, we get a negative sign. We'd actually switch this to a plus sine of 2. So cosine's derivative is negative sine, we switch to plus. This is the first derivative, and then we go again. 7 times 14 is 98. And it's negative this time because the derivative of cosine is negative sine. And then we take a derivative of the second one, chain out another 2, 20 cosine 2t. We plug in pi, this term goes to 0. The cosine of 2 pi is 1, so the answer is 20. ln. That's that question. Okay, and then 8. 8's fun. So these kind where it asks which of these must be true. If the limit approaches something, it doesn't mean that point needs to exist. So none of these. It's A. This is not enough information. If they had given us information like the limit as x approaches 2 of f of x equals 5 and f of 2 equals 5, which of these is true, then we would have been like continuous and the point exists, but not even the middle one, because we need to know its derivative's continuous to say it's differentiable, and it could be something like this and not like have a cusp here or a hole or something, and in which case, no, we actually couldn't have a hole. I define this as being something defined after that. That's all that rules that out. Hopefully that answered the questions on 7 and 8, but it was straight none of these because there could be a hole there in the original question. I just started rambling about another question. If the graph looks like this, none of these are true, and that fits the condition if 5. Okay. Wait. Notice there's something in chat. Gotta time out Caleb for his comment. He mentioned Voldemort. We don't do that. That was fun. Moderate Caleb out of chat. All right, so 10. 10's a good old-fashioned limit. Oh, this one's interesting. There's a few things I can talk about here. First, the limit's not too bad because the biggest term on the top is the 4x squared, but since it's in a square root, it would actually be 2x, and even more special than 2x, it'd look like the absolute value of 2x. And 2x over 8x is 1/4. If you plug in infinity, or really anything, 2x over 8x is going to go to a fourth. So that's what that would be. The reason why I said this question is kind of interesting is what if I did limit as x approaches negative of this? And the cool part about this question is if you plugged in a negative infinity, it'd actually be going to negative 1/4. The top would still be going to, like, would be positive, but the bottom would be negative. And so that one's kind of interesting that the positive infinity and negative infinity limits are a little different. So it sort of looks like a logistic function. You know what one of those are? Number 10, for some reason, it's... Oh, I think I did 10, though. Still in now. Maybe, hopefully. Big idea being you can have the power and square root the number, pull the biggest term out of the square root like this, and use it to evaluate the ratio of the terms. 12. Sure, this might as well be a quiz question. Some people who retook may have even done this question. I don't know. If you do, okay, so if you take the derivative of this, it has a product rule and it has a chain rule, but they're like two different parts. The product rule in the first part, a prime b is f of x plus ax times b prime, f prime of x, and minus g prime of 3x minus 2, and we have to chain out a 3 chain rule. And now you just plug in whatever point, so it looks like it's 2 this time. So f of 2 is 5. X is 2. F prime of 2 is, looks like 1. G of 4, or G prime of 4, rather. Because that's what you get when you plug 2 in here. Is 6 minus 2 is 4. G prime of 4 is negative 1. 3. And so you get 5 plus 2 plus 3, which is 10. That's that question. All right. 12 on the last page, 8 on the third page. Yes. I'll head that way. So 12 on the last, okay, so 12 on the last page has these wonderful graphs here. And then I asked for a bunch of things. And in terms of difficulty, I thought this was kind of entertaining. I would call this like maybe a 1 or a 2 out of 10. This one more like a 3 out of 10. And this one like a 10 out of 10. The difficulty curve was not linear there. Anyways, f prime of 4. All we had to do was go and look at f, which is this darker curve, is f. Not curve, set of lines. Darker piecewise. And we look at 4 here, and the slope here, which is what f prime of 4 is a half. So that's what that one is. But asking for what's the slope or the derivative at 4 of f. Caleb's back. Rats. Wonder how long the ban was, like 2 minutes? Or didn't get a choice. Anyways, next question. What is g prime of 4 plus f prime of 5? Well, f prime of 5 is the same as f prime of 4 was. It's the slope of this line, which is a half. G prime of 4 is at a cusp. That's a problem. We have a different slope to the left and right of that. So this would be straight undefined. And undefined plus a half is undefined. Like the undefined ruins it. And I went 2 different ways. Which one's undefined? Forward slash or backslash? I have no idea. Wait, you actually went on a new account? I timed you out for 5 minutes. Oh, it shows me now. Alright, now I'm gonna do the bottom one. And this one's a lot more work. This is probably the hardest question on here, so save the best for last. Anyways, if you take the derivative of this garbage, well, you have a little bit of quotient rule, so bottom, the top, minus top, the bottom, all over the bottom squared. Then you have a little bit of product rule in the second term. Oh goodness, this is a lot of writing. F prime of x plus 5 times g of x plus 5 plus f of x plus 5 times g prime of x plus 5. Oh lord, that plus sign. All right, better now. And the last one is a little bit of chain rule, which is f prime of g of x plus 6 and times g prime of x plus 6. Okay, that was the painful part. Now I gotta go and evaluate all these. So I'm plugging in 2 for all the x's. So g of 1 is, if I look at g, it's whatever this value is right here. Slope of that line is a fourth. That's 3.75. That's my first value. F prime at the same, rather at 3, because it's f prime of 3. So I gotta look at the slope at 3, and that's 1. So okay, times 1. Minus f of 3. F of 3 here is 5. And g prime is the slope at, we're back at 1. Slope at 1 of g is a fourth. And it's all over g of x minus 1 squared, which is the 3.75 squared. Okay. On to part 2. F prime of x plus 5. Since I'm plugging in 2, is going to be f prime of 7. 7's right here. So since all these are x plus 5s, I'm looking at these points. F prime is the slope of the f line, which is 2. And g at that value is the same as f's value, it's 4. So I already know f's value is 4. And g prime is the slope of the g line, which is a -1. Sick, I'm already done with all that product rule junk. On to the chain rule piece. How did I get 3.75 again? So this is 3, this is 4. The line has a slope of a fourth, so it goes up 1/4 to here, up another quarter, up another quarter. That's 0.75. Higher. How do you know which numbers to plug in? It's all about like figuring out what it is. So this was like g of 1. Oops. This was f prime of 3. I'm plugging in numbers by plugging 2 in and then evaluating the inside and then going and looking at the picture to see what the value of f prime g or g prime is at whatever that x value. So again, 3 is what I plugged in, 1 is what I plug in, 1 is what I plug in, 2 plus or minus whatever the number is. Hopefully that helped. I don't know. Anyways, lastly, g of x plus 6 is g... Okay, x plus 6 is 8. So g of 8 is what I'm evaluating. That is this point right here. That's 3. So I'm actually evaluating f prime of 3. So the slope of f at 3 is a half. That's the slope of this line here at 3. So that whole first bit ends up being a half. So first I evaluated g of 8. Then once I got a value for g of 8, which was 3, I did f prime of 3. I looked at the slope of f at x equals. Okay, then I multiply it by the slope of g at 8, and g has a slope of -1. And this is the answer. Simplifying this is like pain. Simplifying the stuff on the right here, not bad at all. It's like 8 minus 4 minus a half, so it's this stuff plus 3.75. Fascinating. This question is definitely a little bit pain. There's probably some way to simplify this, but these two parts added together would be our answer to that question. And really, I just wanted you to practice a lot of stuff like that. How is f prime of 3 1? F prime of 3 is a half. That's what I got, a half for that. The slope of this graph is a half here. I did not think that f prime of 3 1. Yes, as Caleb said. Will there be a question like this on the test? Generally, the answer to that question is the answer you don't want it to be. So, maybe that's the right way to put that. Okay, there was another question that I had skipped a while back. Can you do the second two? Can you do 7 on the 4th page? Or 3rd page? Wait. 7 on the 4th page. 7 on the page. Maybe 7 on the 3rd page. Then the second two. Can you explain how f prime of 4 is a half? Oh yeah, sure. So f prime of 4 is a half because the slope of this line is a half. The slope of this line is a half. F prime has 3 different possible values. It's a half between 2 and 6. It's -2 in between -2 and 2. And it's 2 in between 6 and 10. The slopes of those lines that make up that piecewise function. All right. So yeah, 7 on the 7 and 2 on the second or on the 3rd page look like my next destinations. Determine the points, if any, at which the graph of the function has a horizontal tangent line. So what is a horizontal tangent line? It's one of these. When we're flat across the top, yikes, my drawing. That's a horizontal tangent line. It's when our slope equals 0. So all we're doing is we're going to take the derivative of this thing, 3x squared plus 12x, and set it equal to 0, and figure out where this happens. And you can factor out a 3x, like, yeah. And so at 0 and at -4, And I mean, technically it says points, so 0, 5. Plugging 0 into this equation gives me 5. And -4, something horrible. Negative 64 plus, what's 6 times 16? 96 plus 5? That's 37. And those would be the 2 points where this thing has a horizontal tangent line. Okay, the second one, find the equation of a line that is tangent to the graph of f and parallel to the given line. So we want to be parallel to this line. So you just solve this line equation by, well, solve for a line equation, put it in y equals mx plus b form by adding y to both sides, 48x plus 1. So I want the slope to be 48 because it needs to be parallel to this line. So all I got from that line was I want the slope to be 48. So then I take the derivative of this equation, 12x squared, and I set it equal to 48. So x is 2. But also, x could be -2. By the way, if you don't, I sort of skipped a couple steps. X squared equals 4 is the equation that yields us 2 and -2 as potential answers to this. Those are both places where the equation of 4x cubed has a slope of 48. And then we just force a line through either of these points. The y value of these points we can figure out by plugging 2 and -2 into the f of x equation. So 2 comma 4 times 8 is 32, or 2 comma -32, or sorry, -2 comma -32. Both of these points are good points to plug into point slope form. So I was going to pick point slope form for my way to write this, which is y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. And you just doink in the x value in x1 and the y value in y1. And you can pick either point and plug it in. They both work. So hopefully that answered question 2. 5, 6, and 8 on the third page. Okay. I think those align with what other people are asking. Okay. So anyways, I was zoning out there for a second. All right. 5, 6, and 8. 5, you just rewrite like meow, and you get -20 x to the -5, and then you plug in 3. That's -20 over 3 to the 5th power, which is 81. Is that right? No, 3 to the 5th is not 81. It's 243. Yep. Yeah, so it should just be -20 over 243. Ikers. Bad math, Mr. Kennedy. And then 8. Ball is thrown off a 250-foot building. Oh, we're back in physics. Or Algebra 2. This question could almost be on the Algebra 2 test. Except, we have to use a little bit of critical thinking here in order to plug stuff into the equations. First of all, that position equation that they give us is incomplete because we have not plugged in the initial velocity, which is the v naught, 0 here, and the initial height, which is 250. So the actual s of t equation is -16t squared minus 12t and then plus 250. This is the equation you start with, and then you can take a derivative of that equation, get the velocity, -32t minus 12, and you plug in 3, and -32 times 3 minus 12 is -108. So this was really a take a derivative and plug in a point question that was sort of veiled behind some words. Uh, the next question asks, what's its velocity after falling 150 feet? And for that one, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to plug a time into this velocity equation, but you have to find that time first instead of being given it. You just set 150 equal to negative 16t squared minus 12t plus 250. And you can solve this however you want, like quadratic formula. Maybe it factors. You subtract 150 from both sides, you get 0 equals negative 16t squared minus 12t plus 100. Does this factor? I don't know. Negative 4 times 4t. Pull up my answer key. That would be a smart thing to do. Does not seem real likely. Now, this seems like a quadratic formula question. So you could just jump into that 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus stuff. Did I goof this? Yeah, I goofed this. This is bad. That's why I'm getting a negative. So it's, I don't know, I'm getting bogged down here. 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus, okay. 4 times 4 times 20, 25. What did I mess up? I don't know. Oh, because this is a minus sign. Rats. I think I jumped straight into the quadratic formula, like right away on my answer key. But if you do it this way, that is a minus 25 because I took a negative 4 out of 100, which makes this solvable and have some sort of awful inside. Great. You end up getting something like negative 3. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 16 times 25 is 400. So 409. 8. Yeah, those are pretty heinous times. Explain 2 again. Try. Guys even no, I'm confused because I'm like running out of space, and then I like have bad handwriting on this little tablety thing I have. Oh man, I just pressed the button. It's not so much I'm confused, like literally I'm getting confused at the quadratic formula, which is what I'm teaching in Algebra 2 right now. I just is bad maths. If I had written it cleanly like this, it would have been really obvious that that was a negative 3 and 3 squared and all that crap. But I didn't do. Literally just quadratic formula. It's nothing too evil. So whatever that point, negative 3 plus root 409 over 8 is a good, that's a good x value to plug back into the other equation. I am crying. Oh, don't cry. Anyways, question 2. So the big idea, to kind of give a recap, since I already have all of question 2 like kind of done here. From this equation, you figure out that you want your slope to be 48 because you're supposed to be parallel to the line. The line has a slope of 48. Parallel slopes have exactly the same slope. So 48 is our slope. So I set 48 equal to the derivative of 4x cubed, which is 12x squared. Divided both sides by 12, got x squared equals 4. The 2 possible answers to that are 2 and negative 2. Then I plugged 2 and negative 2 into 4x cubed to get their y values, 32 and negative 32. And from that point, once you have an x and a y value, you already know the slope is 48 and your x and y value. So you can, if I use the top point, just do y minus 32 equals 48 times x minus 2. That would be one of the answers, and the other one was y plus 32 equals 48 times x plus 2. And that's the answer for the negative 2, negative 32 point. And that is the other one. So there were 2 possible lines that worked. It said find an equation instead of find the equation because there were two possibly. And let's see both of them. Why not crying? 9 and 11 on the last page. You want me to do a couple related rates questions? Are we past the most of the related rates stuff on the test? Anyways, a winch at the end of a dock is 9 feet above the level of the boat, so it's like, how fast is when the rope is 41? So this is 41. We don't know the bottom side here yet. The boat's here. I mean, technically, it's like here. And it's being hauled in at 4 feet per second. So I know dCdt is -4 because it's being hauled in. I know the 9 side is static. It's not changing because the winch is here and the person's like pulling this down, but the height of the winch is always 9 feet. And so this is a rough picture. If you want to figure out this side, all you do is the square root of 41 squared minus 9 squared. What is that? Oh, just 40. So if you solve this Pythagorean theorem, you get the square root of 1600, because 1681 minus 81. So that's just square root of 1600, which is 40. Cool. Now I know all three sides. Now it's a pretty clear Pythagorean theorem question. I'm going to call the bottom B and the hypotenuse C, and I don't need to call this guy A because it's just 9. I can call it 9. 9 squared plus B squared equals C squared. 2b dB dt, 2c dc dt, that derivative. 9 squared has a derivative of 0. That side is constant. And then we just plug in the stuff we know. So 2 times 40 times I want to know dB dt equals 2 times 41 times ddt is -4. And now we just, what is this? -8 times 41 over 80. We can just doink those 8s and make that a 10. So -4.1 second. How fast the boat is approaching the dock. So it's actually approaching faster than the pulley is being pulled in. Hopefully that helped. Since I got a question about 6 on the first page, I think I can just scroll back up. Yeah, I did 6 on the first page. Horizontal asymptote makes this number 10, the A. And the ratio of the x minus 1 over x minus 1 gives us a whole. And so you end up getting 10x minus 10 over x minus 1 in the format that looks like the question. And if you do 10 minus 10 minus 1, you get the answer, -1. You missed the negative, that's why you did it wrong? Yeah, that's easy to do. Let me tell you, on the answer keys for all the stuff I did this weekend, I made so many mistakes. I probably missed 2 negative signs just on the quizzes alone for calculus. I mean, I caught them, but like on my first takes that I do in like a minute, I made quite a few mistakes. So, whoops. I think I have one more to do on this page, and then I was gonna pop to question 1, I guess. I'll hit there now. Okay, so balloon is being deflated at 12 pi. Cool. The -12 pi is dt. At what rate is the radius decreasing when r equals 2 feet? So to get dV dt, I need to take the derivative of the sphere equation. There is a assumption that this is a sphere, but it should have said that, because since most balloons are kind of like oblate and not super round, whatever. If we take the derivative of this equation, dv dt equals 4 pi r squared dr dt. You plug in 12 or negative 12 pi for dv dt, and you plug in 2 for r. You get 4 pi 4 dr dt. And so you just divide by 16 pi on both sides, and you get negative 3 over 4 dr dt. That's in a second. Something like that. Hopefully that helped on 11. This is not confidence build. Okay, one negative sign. How to say this? So our test that's coming is going to be like 18 multiple choice questions. And if you get like a 10 or 11 or something like that, that's right around where a B is. So like at 82 or something, somewhere in this range, generally. Depends on the difficulty of the tests, and they change every time I write them. And really, once you get around like a 15, you're already at like 100%. So there is some wiggle room. You can miss 3 questions and still get 100%. These tests are written for somebody like me who makes lots of stupid mistakes. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just make sure you know all the concepts, and if you know how to approach all the questions, you have a pretty solid chance of doing pretty well. That was a little bit of a strategy advice. Are related rates on the table for the multiple choice questions? Like they could be in a multiple choice question. I mean, I can relatively guarantee that there's a likelihood that there is something related rates oriented on the test, but most of it was already done. My voice is good at ASMR? Am I that boring? Oh, feels bad. Anyways, the first question I was asked about, so what does the limit statement here represent? The thing to look at here is that this is f of x minus f of c over x minus c. Or if you plug in 1, you get natural log of 2 minus natural log of 2 on the top and 1 minus 1 on the bottom, which is 0 over 0. So you can use L'Hopital's rule on this. Either way, you end up taking the derivative of natural log of x plus 1, which we don't know how to do. But notice that this is the derivative of natural log of x plus 1. Now, unfortunately, it's not the answer, because that's not what this question is asking. This question is asking for the limit as x approaches 1 of our derivative. So we need to plug in 1 into the derivative if our function is natural log of x plus 1. So either way, you needed to think about natural log of x plus 1 is the function I want to take the derivative of, then I'm plugging in 1. And that made it have to be. And for the record, the derivative of natural log of x plus 1 is 1 over x plus 1. So it's so hard for me not to write that all the time. It's not too hard to get from here to here. But that's second semester stuff. Do we need to know limit definition? You need to know how to recognize it. The 2 questions at the bottom of the limit definition notes and the right side usually on the quiz, those types of questions are 100% multiple choice style questions that are likely to be on the test. Very likely, like sure thing, going to be on the test. So yes, a question like question 1, or like one with the f of x plus h. Are there any x plus h's? Those types of questions definitely could show up. Ooh, no x plus h's in the review. Yeah, definitely could be one of those x plus h style questions. Which, if you're not sure what I'm talking about, the limit as h approaches 0 or delta x of f of x plus h minus f of x over h. This thing could show up on tests. And remember, this thing just equals f prime of x. That's it. You find the function, and you can look here and here to find evidence of what the function is. Whatever x plus h is plugged into, whatever x is plugged into. And then you just take the derivative of that. That's it. That's all there is to limit definition. The H-style kind of limit definition, at least. I think I answered every question now. Anything anybody else wants me to talk about or anything? Or are we big chillin'? I can go make myself some tea. You will not have to write anything out. So no, there will not be a question where you have to write everything out. I'm curious which question you're talking about. One? No, there won't be a kind where you have to do this. That's saved only for quizzes. Hard to make a multiple choice like that. It says on the key that the answer to 11 on the second page is D, not C. I think that's wrong. I do not agree with the answer key. Pretty sure 3 over 2 pi minus 2 pi is a negative 1/2 pi. So, pretty sure I did it right this time. So I would say that the answer key is incorrect, and it is not. The test going to be all multiple choice? Yes. This part of the test. Like, obviously, you already had the non-multiple choice part of the test for this. The other thing to tell people, I guess, just some like open advice. There are 18 questions that we're going to be doing on tomorrow morning, afternoon, some of you. And the time frame is going to be something like 38 minutes or so. Probably about the timing that I anticipate. So you want to make sure that you can solve questions on an average of 2 minutes. If like the first question's like hard for you and you spend like 7 minutes on it, that's very bad strategy. What I would recommend doing is look at question 1 and be like, heck yes, I know how to do this one. Or be like, that one might take me longer. I'm gonna skip that one and try to find questions I know how to do first, and then bop through it. Maybe 2's easy for you, and maybe you skip a bunch because they're like hard, and then you go to 6 and you're like, oh, I can do that one. And I would go through and do like a first pass at your test and do all the questions you think are like low-hanging fruit, and then go back and waste time or spend time on questions that are harder for you. This is not a test where you have to get everything right. Oh, did I do something wrong? You guys are correcting me. Oh, it is. Gosh darn it. So I was right on the key. Oh, Lord, what is that thing? Okay, so this is a 2 pi minus c that I totally copied incorrectly, which does make it a not c and makes it a, because it's a negative c equals negative pi over 2, or yeah, that. And so sorry about that. That was bad. Good job, former me. You got this right. Bad job, present me. Good correction. Good job to those of you who stuck around to see the correction. Wow. Anyways, going back to the test strategy, really skip around. Skip around. Don't go in linear order. Don't get stuck on a question that takes you forever. Don't get super tilted when you hit a question and you don't know how to do it, and try a bunch of things. Like, save those for last. This is a test where you can get 10 out of 18 right, which is normally an F or a D. And that's actually a B. So that's the, or around an 80%. That's the mindset I want. I'm hoping you guys take going into this test, and I'll probably shout it out tomorrow. Give people that advice. This isn't like the SAT where you want to get everything right. It's a very different type of test. So, anyways, thank you for the correction. It was D. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I don't know if I'm going to keep the camera for future things. I actually sort of have a clean background compared to normal, but I've never done a cam before. You have to look at me. That's maybe turning viewers away. But have a wonderful rest of your night. Get some sleep. Don't stay up late studying this. And all that. Will the multiple choice grade be included in first? Man, I don't know. If the quarter ended on Friday, I guess it's quarter 2 or 3 or whatever quarter, next quarter. And if, yeah, I mean, I have it set as due Monday, I think, so that's that. No sleep, gang. No, bad, Nicole. Don't lower your IQ by like 5 to 10 points. Don't do that. Bad. AP tests are, you want all of those points. you want to hold on to that. All right, anyways, good night. OBS is working.